Hi guys, I'm Christy Elaine and this is Reframing the Narrative. Today I'm going to be talking with you about how the US government doesn't work. This video is largely an answer to everyone saying, how did we get Trump? And it seems like America is broken. Well, we kind of are. I'm going to assume you know the basics of our system or have watched the previous video. If so, this should be pretty easy to understand. The first thing is the Electoral College. 48 states give all the electoral votes to whoever wins the plurality. Plurality just means more than everyone else, even if not over 50%. This means that 3 people are running for president and the vote is divided with one candidate getting 3 million votes and one getting 2.9 million and one candidate getting 3,000,001 votes. The candidate getting 3,000,001 votes gets all the Electoral College votes. It doesn't matter if the 2.9 million and the 3 million voted for the anti-war candidate and the 3,000,001 wants to declare war. All that matters is who wins the plurality. That is a big first issue. The second part is how the number of electors are decided. Each state gets an elector for every congressperson they have, but also for every senator they have. This means a state like Wyoming with only one congressperson gets 3 electoral votes. Wyoming has less than 600,000 people and they share 3 electoral votes. People in California have 1 electoral vote from their congressman, then share 2 Senate electoral votes with more than 39 million Californians. It is a bit uneven, yeah? And that leads to things like the 2016 election. Hillary Clinton won roughly 2.9 million more votes than Trump. Almost 3 million more Americans wanted her to be president than supported him. But Trump won. And he won because less than 1% of votes spread across 3 states, less than 80,000 votes or so in total, in exactly the right places. A fraction of a percent difference in Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Michigan, and Hillary would have been president. The election swung by 0.06% of the votes cast because of where they were cast. I'm not going to get into whether or not third-party voters gave the election to Trump, but I will say the margin Clinton lost by in those states was below the margin that went into the Green Party. Clinton was also second choice for Johnson voters in many polls. So that is the first part of how our system is broken. The second is the Senate. We already talked about how the Senate favors people who live in smaller states over those who live in larger states when it comes to the Electoral College. But it also favors smaller states over larger states when it comes to all the duties of the Senate. I'm going to refer back to California and Wyoming because of the difference in their population size. The Senate has to ratify all laws. Appointments by the executive branch confirm treaties and decide whether or not to remove a president or other executive branch official. California has about 40 million people. That means that their senators represent 40 million people. They have only 2. If you want to do the simple math, that is 1 senator representing every 20 million people. Wyoming has 2 senators. They have less than 600,000 people. That means 1 senator represents less than 300,000 people. That means Wyoming has around 67 times the representation in the Senate as California. This becomes even more troubling when you think about what each state's share of GDP is and what they offer the country. Wyoming's $34 billion a year represents roughly 0.21% of US GDP. California's 2.2 trillion a year is roughly 14% of the US GDP. So why should Wyoming have 67 times the influence over California over economic policy, or any policy for that matter? Why should 1/67th the amount of people decide on healthcare for more Americans, or get to decide the cabinet and the makeup of judges and overall US policy, which also goes to impeachment? Trump was impeached in the House and not removed because of the Senate. In that case, the senators who voted to remove Trump for president represented 12 million more Americans than who voted to keep him in office. Almost 3 million more Americans voted for Hillary than Trump in the election, and senators representing 12 million more voting Americans voted to remove him from office than keeping him. Just to be clear, he couldn't have been removed without a 2/3 majority of senators voting to remove him, but it says something that the senators representing more of Americans wanted him gone, and it didn't matter. The last major deficit in our country and why it is really broken is something called gerrymandering. I urge you to read about the Red Map project. If you get a chance, essentially gerrymandering is manipulating how congressional districts are drawn to make sure their party gains more seats. State governments can decide how their districts are drawn. Each district gets one congressperson. Republicans developed a plan called Red Map to redraw districts in such a way where they received more representation than is warranted by their percentage of support in states. Here's an example. The reason for this is pretty simple. Let's say you have 3 districts. Each district is 55% Democratic and 45% Republican. That would mean you have 3 Democratic representatives in those districts, 1 for each district. What Republicans realized, then implemented, was things like redrawing those lines so one district could take most of the Democrats. They would guarantee one seat would have a Democratic congressperson, but in return, they would get 2 seats, whereas accurate representation would have given them 0. So let's take those 3 districts for an example. If Republicans moved 20% of the Democratic voters from 2 of the districts to a third, using redistricting, you would wind up with one district with 95% Democratic voters and 2 districts with overwhelming Republican majority. They have computer models which help them figure out exact percent to move from a district to another district and how to draw districts to maximize their gains. And if you're thinking, how effective could that be? Well, Democrats have to win the popular vote by at least 7 through 12% to even gain majority in the House now. And just to be clear, modern Republicans didn't invent gerrymandering. They have just used modern technology and the concept of gerrymandering to subvert our democracy in a way that no one else has. In the next video, I'm going to talk about some methods we propose to fix our system.